Welcome to NocBro Nation.
What's up, guys?
Hey guys, today we're here to review episode 4 of The Walking Dead, Some Guy.
Some Guy. Now, it was kind of a couple guys, but these were some dudes.
Well, I thought of it as a way of, obviously King Ezekiel's not just a king, but some guy.
And that's exactly, I think
it was
that's
kind of the overall theme of the episode.
It was, and from our predictions, we were assuming some guy, because we showed in the one video where they were thinking of taking the guns back to the sanctuary. It could be that guy.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking you're right. I'm thinking because this was really heavily about King Ezekiel, and he kind of reveals in the end who he really is.
Yeah.
He's
we were right on one prediction, and that's the fact that Rick and Daryl actually show up, and that guy is not. I think we predicted that guy was the aftermath, right? So he was escaping the outpost. But obviously, let's get into it. We open up the episode with King Ezekiel, and he's getting ready, getting his armor on. Really cool, because I originally thought right when he walked into the room, like we were getting a flashback to like when he was at the zoo.
Right, but, maybe right at the beginning as he's like getting ready, but then once he starts like seeing putting his armor on,
right when he walked into the doorway,
right?
That's what I thought.
Yeah. Once he starts getting his armor put on, then we know that it's at some point, and we find out it was just the morning of him getting geared up for them to go out as that day in a sense. So
and I really did like the scene. So basically, what happens? Ezekiel gives a speech to the kingdom before they, rally out and go out to war.
It's a good speech.
Yeah, we were saying that we were tired of the speeches, but
he gets me pumped, man. Every time I hear him speak, and it gives people hope. And when you see people looking at him, you can see them smile, and he again says, and again I smile. Yeah, and it's just he's giving them hope and letting them know that look, even though that he may not believe that they're going to win this fight, or no, everyone's going to come back alive. Yeah, because he knows there's going to be casualties, but he's going to stay positive and allow his people to believe that they're being positive, so they just won't feel so sad, like we're all going to die. Yeah, you know what I mean? So it was a good speech.
Yeah, it was a good speech, and he rallies everyone. It doesn't really need to rally. Everyone's behind King Ezekiel.
Everybody's ready.
But we see many of the kingdom soldiers say goodbye to their loved ones.
Say goodbye to their families,
flowers given, and immediately we cut to the aftermath of the 50 cal attack.
That, as you know, that is a very brutal weapon, and you look at the bodies and they have massive holes. I mean, the shells are like what? Shells are like this big?
Yeah, and the exit wounds were like
the exit wounds were massive. Yeah.
But they did a really great job of, immediately cutting from a loving scene of soldiers saying goodbye to their loved ones to the aftermath of those same soldiers now being blown to bits. So it was kind of cool how they did it.
And we assumed nobody was alive, and then we see a hand come out, and it's actually Ezekiel crawling his way out. But
of like a
pile of them who jumped on top of him to save the king. We didn't see Jerry, so we didn't know what happened to him. But unfortunately, King Ezekiel, I believe he was shot in the foot. He was shot in the leg. A ricochet. If he was really shot in the leg, his leg would probably be gone.
Yeah.
So it must have been probably the exit wound from his people jumping on top of him to where he got nicked, but still he had issues walking.
Or possibly getting well, it was an obvious bloody wound, so something happened to cause that. Right. I originally was like, no, did he get bit? That's the first thing you think of. But obviously, being such a central character to the show right now, they're definitely not going to kill him off.
Right. No.
Although you thought so.
Well, I'll tell you this, and I told him this off camera. The amount of footage that we saw of Ezekiel, of how they started the episode, I truly thought this was the end. I was literally screaming in front of the screen like...
Even though you've read the comics.
Yeah, even though I read the comics. I was like, are you really killing him off right now? Because he is supposed to survive all out war. Mm-hmm. But is this what's happening? Because just how the opening scene was. It was him getting ready and showing him all the speeches. And I'd say, 80% of the episode was King Ezekiel. Yeah. So I was truly like, oh my God, they're killing him off.
Yeah. So we do get a savior actually runs into King Ezekiel and kind of captures him.
Yeah.
Again, the goal from previous episodes and what Morales says was not to kill them, but to capture them and take them to Negan.
Yep.
And we kind of get a little foreshadowing of what's going to happen to Ezekiel. We won't give you any spoilers of how he perishes from the comic, but well, I guess we're going to spoil it. Spoiler alert. If you haven't read the comic,
do you want to spoil it now?
No, we won't spoil it.
No,
now.
we don't.
Anyway,
spoil it. Yeah.
The savior kind of threatens him the whole journey, because basically they're trying to make their way back to the compound.
Right.
They are outside the compound. That's where the 50 cal assault happened. But the whole journey back to the compound, this guy is just giving him shit like for acting like a king. Everybody at the sanctuary knows that he fakes it to make it.
That's right. I mean, he calls him out on his stuff. He's like, "Look, we know you're fake." Blah blah blah. And I love that when he first got captured, Ezekiel asked him, "Where are we going?" And he's like, "Where do you think?" He's like, "The sanctuary." Oh yeah, we're going back there. But yeah, it was really cool because for the if we didn't know, we wouldn't have known that King Ezekiel faked it. I mean, yes, in normal times in the United States of America, there are no kings, but we figured that's just
they're not
right. We just figured we just figured that's how his persona was, but it's just how he decided to make his personality to be who he was,
and it suits him right now.
It does.
Okay, so you mentioned that they were going back to the sanctuary. One thing to mention there from that conversation is King Ezekiel tells him, "Look, the sanctuary is like surrounded, right? We're not going to make it in,
right.
And
they're not getting out. We're not getting in."
Yeah, and the Savior says, "Well, that's where you're coming into play. We're going to get that 50 cal back, and how do you think we're going to get back in?" Exactly. So we know the whole mission or the whole plan now for this 50 cal weapon is to get that back to the sanctuary so they can free Negan and the army.
Yep, and that's what we assume, and I know that's what we. I think they mentioned that in the previous episode as well. Is like they're on their mission to get their way back, but they moved it in purpose because they knew Ezekiel was going to be coming to that compound. Yeah. So they're like, we're just going to take them out as much as we can to dwindle their numbers and then get it right back.
Yeah. So we get Carol, who we know from the previous episodes, separated and made her way into the compound, but we get to see her now, and this was kind of some awesome scenes here because we discussed this in our predictions video. From seeing the preview, she makes it to the weapon cache, and what a weapon cache it is. I mean,
massive.
It's huge.
And we hear the Saviors, they're packing up their stuff, and they said, I think they're looking out and they're seeing Ezekiel, and before he was captured by the Savior, we're seeing Ezekiel head off, and they're like, "Let him go. We were just only here to take some of them out, or dwindle them down a little bit."
Yeah.
So they are on a mash dash to get it right back, and I think one of the other Saviors is coming in like, "Hey, we got to hurry up, man." But Carol, she's pretty much stuck. She's caught in between now.
Yeah.
Dude's loading up a 50 cal with guns, and this other guy coming in. And what she did to take these guys out was
she hides in the freaking ceiling.
Yeah.
And shoots through the ceiling, obviously kills the few Saviors that were shooting the 50 cal, and then the couple of Saviors that were coming in.
Right. They're all in a line, as all of a sudden all in a line.
It reminded me of when she shot the dudes in the street that were standing up with the machine gun through her coat.
Yeah.
But yeah, just another creative way for Carol. I mean, she's always finding that spot to where she can be useful to the group, and she's ruthless.
Yeah. And we get to, so as the Savior guy is leading King Ezekiel kind of back to the sanctuary, they get to a point to where they, his people are now starting to turn.
Yep.
His, the survivors are now starting to turn.
The kingdomers
are starting to turn, and they're starting to follow them. And this is where you were mentioning he's giving them crap. He's like, "Look, your people have always followed you, and look, even in death, they're still following you. And so,
Another thing about those same people is we go back to the human element that I was talking about before, because the same soldier that accepted a flower from her kid, you see the flower tucked in her arm, and she is now a walker.
Half her head.
So
gone.
Again, it's that human element there. But yeah, I mean, the whole way he's taunting him, and multiple times he falls on the ground, and King Ezekiel actually almost gets the guy.
Because he had to give his sword up that's in his cane because it was helping him walk. And the guy was like, "Oh, I forgot about your sword." So the dude puts a sword in his belt buckle, right? And as they're getting towards this fence, Ezekiel falls and then pulls the sword out. We see a nice gash from the guy, which I thought that was it. That was the end. No, just a little gash from him.
Yep.
And then he takes control again over Ezekiel, and they're on their way.
Yep.
So they get to the...
I think that is the final moment where finally the Savior says, that's it. They're trapped. They get to a gate. They can't get in. It's locked.
Right.
And this Savior basically takes King Ezekiel's coat, throws it over the barbed wire, and pushes him aside and is ready to take off without him. And kill him first.
Right.
But lo and behold, Jerry.
All we hear is a and then we see the dude's body split in half because Jerry has this massive axe, and that was the coolest thing I ever seen.
Yeah, I mean,
I wish I would have seen it more of a wide shot, but it was cool.
The body just split in half, like a banana peel.
Right, and this is where as Jerry is helping Ezekiel, and they're seeing that the walkers are coming. This is where Jerry says, I'm here with you, Your Majesty. And this is where Ezekiel, for the first time, says, don't call me that.
Don't call me that.
I am not Your Majesty. Yeah. And I think Jerry even kind of makes a funny joke. He's like, okay, dude, or,
And even then, like as the walkers, because again, there's a lot, the dead army, the kingdomers, and some other walkers sprinkled in. There's probably a good 50 to 100 making their way towards Jerry and King Ezekiel, and this is where they have their kind of last stand. And Jerry turns to him and says, "Thank you." And King Ezekiel is like, "For what?" And he's like, "For being a righteous dude."
For being a righteous dude. So, but it was really great. And this is where we got back to Carol.
Yeah, and she's kind of in the courtyard.
She's in the courtyard,
maybe 100 yards away.
Yeah, on the other side of the fence. So she's actually watching them as they're loading up the 50 cal, and she's trying to come up with a plan of how to stop them. So she goes out, gunfires exchange, and then she actually goes to this one spot where she can open up the gate because
behind a truck,
right behind a truck, because as she's in this gunfight, she looks over and sees, the walkers at this point. She doesn't see Ezekiel just yet. So she's trying to formulate a plan to say, okay, I'm going to see if they can, I can talk these guys out of it. If not, I'm going to open this gate. So she tries to talk them out of it, saying, hey, she kind of also pretty much gives herself up. She gives herself
up and says that, I will tell you where the rest of my people are if you don't kill me. Again, it's Carol being manipulative.
She's manipulative. Yeah. She stands up, says, I have nothing on me. They're like, where are your people? And then, I think she starts firing again, right?
Yeah.
And
opens up the gate.
Opens up the gate. And as they're coming in, then she sees Ezekiel and Jerry there trapped.
In the distance,
And so now she has to make a choice. Do I save them or do I go after the truck to stop the 50 cal? But of course, she goes and tries. She goes and saves. It's
Ezekiel. At this moment that she's kind of got the saviors pinned. There's 2 saviors left. She's killed a couple of them. There's 2 saviors, hiding behind a truck, and she knows they don't have ammo or that much.
She even says it.
Yeah, she even says it.
And I even said during that gunfight, I was like, these guys are spraying a lot of bullets, and they haven't reloaded yet.
That tends to happen in the world.
There's not that many bullets in that clip.
I mean, you think about it. How many bullets do they really have? At all.
Exactly. Yeah.
Because Eugene isn't helping him out.
These weapon caches must be, but these dudes are spraying bullets out of these little machine guns, and there's not that many rounds in that clip. You should have had to at least change 2 or 3 times.
2 things. Bullets and gas.
Bullets and gas.
That seems like there's an abundance of that in the apocalypse.
But we won't go into the weird little things.
Yeah, guys, it's a zombie show.
Exactly.
So I'll take the little stuff like that for granted or whatever.
But
so Obviously, Carol makes her decision to save King Ezekiel and Jerry. At the same time, this was probably one of my favorite parts because King Ezekiel, they make it. King Ezekiel says to Carol, "You let them, or they're gone. They've escaped. They're going to get to the sanctuary." And then we hear a motorcycle in the background, and Carol just says, "Nope, they're not going to make it."
The look and smile on her face, like, "Nope, they're not making it." Daryl.
Yep. So Daryl and Rick obviously chasing after the saviors. One of the saviors is manning the 50 caliber weapon. This is where we will call a collective bullshit on The Walking Dead.
Yeah. So a guy is sitting in the back of a Jeep and he is firing a 50 cal upon somebody riding a motorcycle and a Jeep. And he doesn't destroy them. No. Daryl gets swerved around. He actually falls. But Rick, the only thing that hits him is maybe a couple bullets to the hood and then into the radiator.
Well, most importantly, the engine. And a 50 cal
would blow it off.
I would think so. I'm not a weapons expert, but you tell me. I'm pretty sure 50 cal would probably go through the block.
Right. Yeah. The 50 cal, the bullet firing at so many miles per hour with the truck coming towards it so fast, I think the car would literally explode.
But anyway, it's a zombie show, so we will take that with a grain of salt.
As they're maneuvering around, and Rick, after they get hit in the radiator, we see Rick, and then right before we think that he's going to get killed or something, he squirts over, and guess who's right behind him with the gun, about to kill the guy with shooting the 50 cal.
Which I thought that was awesome.
Daryl, he's just boom.
I thought that was awesome. I really did. Granted, you're probably going to see Daryl, but anyway, the way that they did that was just cool. I loved it.
Awesome car chase. And so Rick pulls up beside the guy, jumps into the truck, hits the guy, actually stabs him, dude. Hits the guy, kicks the guy out. Rick actually crashes. And then as Daryl pulls over, Rick is actually stumbling, crawling up the hill, right? And he's like,
this is another thing that you noticed about it. I didn't pick up right away, but you noticed
he's stumbling up the hill, and then the first words out of Daryl's mouth is like, "You look like shit." Rick looks at him kind of weird, and then he says, "Let's go make sure this guy's dead." And he'll walk
Let's go see if this guy's still alive.
And then they go walk right back down the hill. It's like, you just walked up. Now you got to go back down. And you even said, you were like, well, why is he down in the ditch? Because he pushed him out of the car.
Yeah, and that's what my wife and I were watching it, and she noticed too. She was like, well, he threw him out of the car. Why do they need to go down and check on him?
Right. But, just because probably the rate of speed, he probably fell and then just dragged across the ground and went into the ditch. Who knows? Yeah. But it was funny. It's like, walk up the hill. All right, let's go right back down.
So we get to probably the most crazy scene. We knew it was probably coming. I said to myself halfway through the show,
I honestly didn't think it was coming until I saw her.
I said, if this happens, then she will die. Right. So what we see is Carol, Jerry, and Ezekiel making, they're escaping the walkers. They're trying to get away from them.
Yeah. Which is tough. Yeah. I mean, they're moving slow because Ezekiel can't move as fast. Yeah. And as they're going through the woods, they get to another area where there's just more of them. They're all over the place. There are more of them. And this is where Ezekiel breaks down. Yeah. And he, Jerry keeps saying, "Your Majesty, Your Majesty," and this is where Ezekiel kind of wants to make his final last stand. And he's like, "I am not your king. I am not your Majesty. I'm a fake. I'm a fake." And he even kind of turns to his normal voice.
He goes to his normal voice.
His tone, I should say. His normal tone, you can hear. Because you've heard it a few times when he's talking with Carol, as he's explaining who he is, fake it to make it, baby.
Yeah, and look, I think the kingdom knows what he's doing, but they just play along with it because they believe in him.
They believe in him. And they will follow him to the end.
I think that's what he doesn't realize. Like, to him, he thinks he's just a fake. Right. And maybe the Savior got into his head a little bit. Mm-hmm. To him, he thinks he's a fake. But what he doesn't realize is everyone else knows what he's doing, but just believes in him that much.
Just think about how many of those people who swore to follow you and protected you threw themselves on you to protect you, and they die in the meantime. Yeah. All of your people who are coming at you now that are zombies trying to kill you, they followed you, they believed in you, and they were there for you. And that's what, like you said, the Savior guy got into his head. Yeah. Really got into his head. and he's going to make his last stand.
Yeah, for someone that was already feeling that way, it just took the savior to push him over the edge. Yeah. And look, so we get about 10 to 15 more walkers come in and surrounding him. And of course, Shiva.
Shiva arrives, and I know a lot of people who haven't read the comics, they probably were jumping up and down like, oh my gosh, Shiva's here to save you, but immediately when I saw Shiva, I was like, nope, this is where she goes. This is issue 118.
Exactly the way I felt. And I said to April, I'm sorry.
No.
I said to April again through the show, I said, if Shiva saves Ezekiel, shows up out of nowhere and saves Ezekiel, she's dead.
Right. And what I loved about this is that the way that Shiva went out in the show is the exact same way she went out in the comics in issue 118.
And that's why I said my comment of what I said.
Right. So Shiva jumps in, kills some walkers, but she sacrifices herself for Ezekiel. Yeah. Now, if you think about the kind of human element and animal element of this, Ezekiel saved her life. And now she returned the favor and saved his.
Did you see when she threw that one?
Yeah,
the first one. Like, she bit that thing like at its like shoulder blade, picked it up and just threw it.
Yeah.
But obviously, we've seen this with a couple other animals, mainly horses, in previous seasons. Walkers are their strongest when they have their numbers.
Yep.
And it was just too much for her.
Overpowered her. They began to eat her, which took their focus away from Ezekiel and the rest, and put it on her, because now they have their food, they have their blood, they need what they need, and now Ezekiel can get away. And I just love that they stayed true to the comic on that piece, because it's kind of the only way they could.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, look,
and the best way to do it.
If you're looking at it from a financial standpoint,
very expensive.
Shiva was very expensive for the show, and we knew, I thought it was going to happen sooner than that, to be honest.
Yeah,
but
me too.
I'm glad that we got to see as much of her as possible.
Right.
King Ezekiel was torn to pieces about that.
You can see that, and you can see the agony that he wanted to go back and try to save her, but I'm thinking that maybe we'll get into it later in other episodes where he's finally come to grasp with everything, but I think in that moment he still understood the gravity of it. I was like, look, I saved you and now you saved me, but it's still a sad moment, and it was sad, but
it was a character death. I mean,
it was a character death. Yeah,
even to us it was.
Right. I mean, honestly, we haven't seen a ton of Shiva. Even in the comics there wasn't a ton of her, but it's part of Ezekiel. It's kind of just another part of him. So when you see Ezekiel, you want to see Shiva at the same time.
She saved Rick's life.
Yeah, she saved Rick's life too.
Yeah.
And Carl.
So
exactly.
We get the end of the episode where, and this was kind of another amazing moment, because leaving the kingdom to go out to war, there's probably 20 to 30 army, and coming back, the gates open, and it's just Carol, a limping King Ezekiel, and Jerry.
Just the three of them.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, the guys at the gate, they're looking at him like, even as they close the gates, they're like, okay. And then we get the community coming in, the little kid rushing in looking for his mom, and the husbands and wives and whoever. Ezekiel doesn't say a word. He, sees a little kid in front of him, puts his hand on his shoulder, and he just kind of probably walks to his room. But then everybody else begins to kind of console each other because they're the only ones back.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's not much you could say at that point.
There isn't much we could say. It'll be interesting to see how that unfolds out, how much, that's going to affect King Ezekiel. And I think it's going to take Carol, obviously, to get him back in line.
I think you're exactly right. Carol, she's such a strong character.
Yeah.
Completely different than what she is in the comics, of course.
Yeah.
So
and look, she didn't believe in him in the beginning, and it's going to take her telling him, "Look, dude, I didn't believe in you at all. I thought you were a joke, but you got me here."
Exactly.
And now, right, you got to pull yourself together and be who you were, because it was what got us here.
Right. Because she was, in a sense, ready to quit. She was in the house all by herself, I don't want to do anything. And certain situations got her back as well, but also Ezekiel helped her back too.
Yeah.
And believing in him and moving forward. So all in all, great episode. You can say you were sad about a character death, but how this was written, perfect.
Yeah. I thought it was great. You know,
perfect.
Everything about the episode I thought was great, and yeah.
And thank you for making me believe that you were going to kill Ezekiel the whole time.
Yeah,
because that you got me on that.
And look, and Jerry too. Like I thought Jerry was going to die, and when you get those episodes where you're afraid for every character that shows up on the screen, that's a good episode.
It's a great episode because it is all out war, and I mean, the show doesn't have to go exactly how the comics are. Yeah. I mean, we might want it to, so the show lasts longer, but if they decide to kill certain characters in between him and, I don't know what word I just said, but
kill them all.
Kill them all. Yep. The saviors win.
All right, guys, let us know what you thought of episode 4. Some guy. Again, a great episode here.
A great episode, and we can't wait for more. So stay tuned for our predictions video coming later in the week as well. That's going to be interesting. Can't wait to see the preview videos for that and the sneak peek for that as well. So we'll be looking at that tonight probably. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to the channel if you're new, and we will see you soon. We are NocBro Nation.
We're out.